Welcome back, everybody. There's two guys and a stack of comics. My name is Reed. Along with me, as always, is Mike.
Hey,
Mike, we are
everybody.
still working our way through our absolute universe. We have seen issue two of Batman. We saw issue two of Wonder Woman. Batman, you and I have been on board with. Wonder Woman, I think we're building a little momentum. It's not been amazing, but I think because Wonder Woman's been sort of difficult to read for a while, we're sort of liking that. Superman was the first issue that gave us the most sort of trepidation. We didn't hate it, but seemed like there was some work to do. And so today, Absolute Superman 2 came out. Your A cover here, and then here's your blue cardstock B cover. They're putting out 4 or 5 covers. I mainly just grabbed the A and B cover of it. We've got Jason Aaron and I believe Rafa Sandoval on art on this. So what I'll just give a brief summation and recap of the issue, and then we will give our thoughts on the overall issue. So picks up right where we left off in the first issue with Lois trying to arrest Clark. And so we see a couple instances of Lois and Clark trying to she's trying to arrest him, obviously, very different dynamic here. And basically, we see that the soul AI that he has is telling him all these options to get away from her, but all of them would end up harming her. And so he's refusing to do that. So we see a little bit of Superman, refusing to harm his enemy. Not only that, the peacemakers kind of show up and shoot at Lois. And we have Superman obviously jumps in front and takes the blasts for her. So probably some building sort of relationship blocks between the two there. That's where we get into the part of the comic where I'm the least sure of. So Superman has this cape. It was teased as it's made of the ashes of Krypton, or the dust of Krypton. We start to see that this cape has like abilities. And so the cape kind of is able to like almost integrate Lois into it and block her. We see later in the issue when he's escaping as the peacemakers and this Lazarus Corp are launching missiles at him. He's able to use it to kind of deflect and block the missiles and things like that. He uses it later in the book to cover people and protect them from harm. So it almost seems more like a Doctor Strange-esque cape. I think you when you read this, you said that's kind of what pointed out to you a
Yeah,
little bit.
Doctor
Is that
Strange Gate
has that
from Krypton.
we see Clark, he kind of gets into it a bit with Lois here. They have a little bit of an argument for about 2 pages where he's telling her the Lazarus Corporate that you work for, they're evil. She kind of has her own perspective saying that they're protecting people. So you get that classic protection versus government corruption, that kind of thing. And then while they're there, they start shooting people. And so we see Clark sort of defending the city. And Lois is obviously very impressed by this. Clark refers to the people as the people of steel. So I think that's going to be a recurring thing. His people were called the people of steel. I think he looks at as oppressed people. That's probably what they're going to end up calling them in the book, which I don't know. That seems a little on the nose, man of steel, I guess. We get some pretty good art here from Rafa Sandoval with Superman sort of saving some folks. I think still getting used
Yeah,
to the Superman redesign, but we get some pretty decent art. And him and Lois sort of work together to save them. And we start seeing the rest of the issue is a narration from Lois, where she's basically going through like an after action report of what happened. She talks about how Superman's power is very hard to see how powerful he is. She's not even sure he knows how powerful he is. She says that she wouldn't recommend targeting him or anything, that he requires more study. And we clearly get the impression that she was very impressed with Superman. I think she even says like he has a childlike earnestness. He can't lie, but he also is an absolute, man of the man kind of thing, can save people, has a lot of convictions. And then we kind of go into they do this forced thing of Lois hates writing her own reports, and her dad talks about how much she hates writing. And then she's like, no, I'm going to write this one on my own. And then she writes it and says, oh, that feels good. So I guess kind of hinting at the reporter thing there. Again, I thought not the most subtle thing, a little on the nose. And then it kind of picks up from there where her report is filed, but this Brainiac system that the Lazarus Corporation uses largely just reclassifies her report. Even though she says he's not a threat, it classifies him as a threat. Even so, she says they shouldn't pursue him. It says he needs to be terminated. And then we kind of end the issue with the peacemakers finding all the people that Clark saved, and they kind of essentially go and wipe those people out. The issue also has a few flashbacks. So the very first page of the issue is actually a flashback. It shows Clark's childhood. I guess he takes like Zoom school classes on Krypton. So we know he grew up a bit on Krypton. And on Krypton, I guess everybody learns from like this chat GPT kind of thing. And he actually decided to write his own paper, and that gets him in trouble at school. And then the other flashback that we get, it's kind of bookmarked by 2 flashbacks. We see him growing up with crypto, but it is actually on
yay,
Krypton.
crypto!
And we do know that Jarell and Laura raised him for at least a portion of time. And as to be expected, Jarell is designing a ship to save all of Krypton, which I think we can kind of figure out only saves Clark. And I believe they say that's about 6 years ago. So Superman seems to be pretty young because he was in school about 6 years ago. So it seems like they're going maybe early 20s for Supes at the oldest.
Well, since he was going to school at Zoom, they must have had,
The
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 COVID
Krypton pandemic,
distance learning
whatever it
in
may be.
Krypton. Yeah, it was probably
Um,
2020,
so that's kind of
something
where
like
we
that.
end up. That's where we go. Before I give my thoughts on it, Mike, Absolute Superman 2, your reaction. What'd you think of the issue? How's it hitting you so far?
I like it. I do. I thought there was enough in there to hook me. I love that they put in crypto at the end. I like where it's going with Lois. I know it's a little bit different where she's has adversarial, and that threw me off in the first issue. But this issue solidifies it. You know where it's going. It's a little strange with the weird cape action, the Doctor Strange cape thing, but I think it's a different universe. Play around, have fun with it, and who knows if in this all oppressive civilization where this militant Roxxon Corporation type
Yeah,
of group,
DC's new Roxxon,
yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
right, is like manipulating everything that a young talented woman might not get swept up and think that that's her occupation, but then could have a change of mind, right,
yeah,
when she meets the right person, which of course is Clark, right,
yeah,
and see things from a different perspective. And I do like that they're hinting that maybe she might be the reporter. That's cool because that's probably your real destiny, but who knows, maybe with this new what do they call it, it's not Roxxon, but it's
absolutely. Or Lazarus is the
the
yeah,
Lazarus Company. Yes, thank you. Um, is manipulating things. Maybe they don't even have real news reporting or something, and she's gonna take
yeah.
that challenge on head on. You do see that she's a strong character because she's not afraid to stand up to Superman and say, I have to arrest you, sir. And
Yeah.
of course, that's not gonna go very well. But and I just thought it was really weird and telling that the Lazarus Corp, they knew she was in danger. They didn't care. They just like, shower them with bullets,
I
kill them
know.
both. And
Yeah.
then at the end of the book, you see how dastardly they are once again. So that's really going to piss Superman off when he finds out, and Lois too. All those people that they saved. So yeah, I'm down for this book. I liked it.
Okay. Um, I will still say this. I think Absolute Batman, I'm 100% in on that. I think Wonder Woman, because I haven't read a lot of Wonder Woman, I'm good with that. Superman, I'm okay with it. There's a couple things there. I think the Sandoval art I think is fantastic, and I want to separate that. I think there's some moments in art where it doesn't look the best, but I think his action scenes look pretty cool. I don't know about the character design of Superman, but I do think the art is outstanding in the comic book, especially for a modern comic. Is it Jack Kirby? No, but it's really good, and I like a lot of what he's doing there. The dialogue in the comic is the biggest issue that I have, in that my biggest fear with the Jason Aaron comic book is that Jason Aaron is about as subtle as a sledgehammer. And so there's just moments in the book that it's telegraphing exactly where it's going to go, and the dialogue just seems stilted in a way. It's not awful. It's not something where it ruins the comic book for me, but I will say it's probably more just based on how I felt about Jason Aaron's previous work with like Punisher and Thor, where I'm like, kind of seen this movie before, and I'm hoping we don't go there. Again, it's not awful. It didn't throw me out of the story completely, but there's just a couple pages here and there. The whole like, oh, Lois hates reporting, and oh, but she's gonna write her own report. I get it. But it took too long to get there, right? It was a whole page of this conversation, and it's like we know where this is going. It kind of just seemed a little bit much. The weird whole people of steel thing, I guess that's a thing with Superman in this. Again, I'm tired of like the literal stuff with Superman where the S is not just an S and the Man of Steel is not a nickname. Everything's got to actually been built into his Kryptonian. That's just little nitpick stuff that drives me crazy. I will say where I am with you. I think the setup is actually pretty cool in terms of one of the things I wanted to see out of these absolute comic books is look, if you were just going to do another Superman title, we have two of those already. If you were just going to do another Batman, we have like 10 of those already. I did want to see, can these series actually design something where they stand on their own, where they are different, and it's not just, oh, I picked up another issue of Superman. And I do have to say that I think all of them have so far done that. And this one to me did that a lot more than issue one. Issue one, I think, just seemed a little bit slow. This one picked up. There was pretty good action in it. And you kind of see what's building. This evil corporation is going to be everywhere. Superman is going to be the champion of the people who fights against them. Seems like Lois will be his ally in that fight, or hopefully down the line. And I think that's a plot line I can get behind. That is a Superman story that I can
Yeah,
get behind, especially in a world where Darkseid, I guess that's Darkseid energy created this world. And so I can kind of see that building. And I think that's having an overarching company that overrules everything and seems to have just an unlimited reach. That's a worthy foe for Superman. And I think, integrating Brainiac into that's kind of cool too. One of the hard struggles of a Superman comic is, can you create a villain that Superman can actually face? And having a company that seems to have a global reach on everything, that is definitely a Superman level threat. And so I think that's good. My question for you on this, because this is the one that I don't know how I feel about. I personally hated it in this issue, but it could become cool. What do you think about the whole cape thing? The cape being the dust and more like a Doctor Strange thing. What are your thoughts on that overall?
um, it's comic book fantasy and it's a different universe, so you kind of have to for these comics in general, and it goes for all of these alternate universes. And even back in the day when they first started dividing the multiverse and having different realities, it's a place for writers to have a little fun and to tell a writer, hey, here's this vaunted superhero with 80 years of continuity and he's got these powers, but we want to do something fresh and new. I give him a wide berth. Does it look weird? Yeah. Is it strange? Yeah. But is it different? Yeah. And does it take away from the character? No, it's just different and strange. It might be tough to get used to, but I'll give him a wide berth on that. And hey, we'll see where it goes.
I'll have to see where it gets integrated. And the thought I had with it is because we got to see how powerful this Superman is. It's like, did we really need to add a Doctor Strange cloak to Superman with all?
A
Because
Kryptonian Doctor
we've
Strange cape.
we've seen heat vision, we've seen X-ray vision. He has the strength. It appears he can fly, or maybe the cape is helping him fly. They don't really clarify which one of that it is. It just seems like if he's Superman with all of his powers, I don't really know why he needs the cape in addition to that. I think that's my biggest sticking point. Again, we're nerds, we're talking comic books. This is obviously we're going to get into nerdy
My
details.
thing is, why do superheroes wear capes at all, anyways? It
Yeah, I
makes
mean
no
it's a
sense.
design function. And I think that's what they're trying to get around is like the cape's not just a cape to be there. It actually has a function. I think they're doing the same thing with Ultimate or Absolute Batman, where he's got like it can help
Well,
him like
Batman's
shoot
cape
things
has
out.
functionality, but Superman's just goes like this.
Yeah, I just there's a part of me that hates it because I do love that. You know why Superman wears a cape? Because it's a fictional world and he wears a cape because he's Superman. But I think
Exactly.
we've gotten
So
to this place,
if it's an
and I think
AI
maybe
driven,
that's the thesis statement of this absolute universe is that we're not doing any of those things like that. Everything here has a function.
yeah,
It just, again, the biggest question that I have on this whole absolute universe, if Darkseid designed this universe, is what kind of the all-in special said. I don't know how giving Batman his mom and giving Superman a magic cape and having Wonder Woman grow up with magic powers and in addition to I don't really know how Darkseid why he would do that. Like that's the thing I think that they've got to kind of get to a little bit is
I think maybe
where's the
when Dark,
challenge coming if we just keep giving them more resources kind of thing.
I think in his evil little matter manipulating mind, Darkseid kind of mixed up the universe and thought he did away with the heroes, but they just came back, but a little bit different. How
Yeah,
about that?
the last point I'll get to before we go,
You're
because
like,
now we know
yeah,
we know he grew up on Krypton. We know he had his birth parents for a while at least.
yeah.
Um, I don't know how I feel about the removal of the Kents. That the weirdest thing for me. I feel like Batman is still Batman. I think when you look at Batman as a character, Yes, his mom being alive would change him a little bit, but his dad was still violently killed. Batman is still Batman. Origin story kind of intact, a little different, but it's still there. Wonder Woman, still an Amazon, differently raised from that culture, but she still has those inherent character traits. Superman to me, I think the only problem I have with this is Superman is Superman because of the Kents. Because Superman's not actually who he is. He is Clark Kent. Clark Kent is a good man raised by Jonathan and Martha Kent. That is where his values came from. He learned hard work, he learned morals, he learned good and bad, and he's Superman as the best way to help the world from what he learned from his parents. Removing the Kents, but his character doesn't change. I don't know. That seems to be a more wide-ranging change for Superman than the other characters. And that part, maybe we'll see it expand. We'll see it grow. I don't know. Superman's just tough for me. I'll admit, I am probably pickier with Superman, even though he's not my favorite character. Batman, I guess because we've had so many good Batman stories like Gotham by Gaslight and different stories where we've changed Batman and mixed him up, that I'm kind of flexible as long as like there's trauma that creates Batman. Superman, I guess maybe I'm being too picky, but I'm like, man, he just took the Kents out and he's still just kind of inherently good. Like that just seems a bit weird to me. I don't know. That strikes me on it. I don't know. How do you feel about that portion of it?
I'm gonna roll with it again because it's the alternate universe. I really wanted a jumping on point for Superman. I love uh, Clark Kent and the Kents, and but that's not this story. Clark Kent is Superman A because of the Kents, and then B because of the powers. Like if he had just gone to Metropolis to chase after Lois Lane and be a reporter, he still would have been a great guy with no powers, right? Because
Yeah,
he was raised by Martha and Jonathan
Jonathan Kent.
Kent.
Yeah.
So that part of the story is absolutely charming to me. But this is a different universe. And, I can see the writer kind of going like, well, what if he had just as good a parents? We never knew.
We never knew Jarrell
Yeah.
and Lara. Yeah.
And, what if those parents instilled those virtues in him as well, which you would hope all parents would. And so, yeah, we'll have to see where it
We'll
goes.
have to
But
see. I guess
alternate
I
universe,
probably need to give it a little bit of room. Again, what I'll say. Um, I would still say this is a good comic book. I mean, we're going to review these because we're reviewing them. Even if we weren't doing any reviews on these, I would still be picking up the next couple of issues. I do think the art is really good, and I think there's some good. And I think there's absolutely going to be an audience for this one. It'll just be interesting over time. Maybe I'm being too nitpicky. Let me know what you guys think below. Am I being too nitpicky on this stuff? Does this stuff bug you the same way? What were your thoughts on Absolute Superman 2? Like Mike, is this a great jumping on point for you? And I will say, I got to give that before we kind of go here. I'll give them credit. All three of these comics are good jumping on points. Where if you like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, it starts and it gets you fresh. And I'll give them credit. They have kind of done what they said they would do with that. So we'll see. Let us know
unlike
what you guys
some
think
of
below.
the unlike some of the Marvels,
Yeah,
which
for sure.
quickly got dropped off my sub list, but I was eagerly wanting jumping on points for all of them.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. We'll see what happens with these. Let us know what you think below, folks. As always, we appreciate you watching. God bless you. You have a great rest of your day.
thanks, everybody.